Well, let us get going here. I'm going to talk about core vocabulary, and 20 years ago, in the late 80s, if you mentioned core vocabulary, nobody knew what you meant. And still a lot of folks do not know what's meant by core vocabulary. Super Duper has recently published a whole pile of things with core vocabulary. Is Shannon here?
Yes.
Where? Oh, okay. There's no one. Okay. Super Duper's just done a thing called core vocabulary in the kitchen. Well, there is no special core vocabulary in the kitchen. Core vocabulary is a term used to describe the 350 to 400 words we use all day long. And it's across environments. I mean, I don't think your prepositional profile changes much when you're in the kitchen as to the prepositions you use when you're, say, cleaning the basement. I bet the ofs are all the same, you know, and as it turns out, that's what's, but let's look at this. English has 50,000 words. Everybody knows what a word is except a linguist, and we worry over that concept, but there are about 50,000 words in English that in a regular dictionary. An educated adult may use as many as 15,000 words. Use or know as many as 15,000 words. And core vocabulary, when you take a type token study with enough number, you know, big enough number, with over a couple 100,000 words, you will always show that about 350 of these words are used over and over again, so much that this 350 represents about 80% of the total words you've used. These are what we call core words. Let me explain it by saying if we put a mic on your collar and we tied a little with a sash, tied a little digital recorder on a belt, and tied, put all of these through internet connection to a main server that had a program on it that recognized and counted individual words and would stop when it got to 1 million, and there would be words coming from all of you. Different backgrounds, well, many speech therapists, but generally speaking, you all lead relatively different lives. Okay, we would find out of that 1 million words that about 800,000 of them were made up of about 350 different words. Then 20% would be made up of the other 15,000 words, of the other 14,700 words. Now, AAC has, and that's called fringe vocabulary, and AAC has been oddly focused on fringe vocabulary. Like, oh, suppose Johnny goes to the zoo. Well, we need to do a page with alligator. In the reptile house, so he's got to say snakes. There'll be a python there, you know, and then pretty soon you think for a couple hours of all the different words, special words that Johnny would use at the zoo and almost nowhere else. And then you put them in the vocabulary on a couple of pages devoted to the zoo. Okay. If most of your time is spent doing that, you will be able to say python and microwave glove. And you will not be able to say, I want to do something else now. Or when is my mother coming? Which is real language, which is, okay. Core vocabulary is a statistical concept related to overall vocabulary. This same type token relationship is a feature of all spoken languages. We had to do our own in Chinese, because in Chinese when people say the 500 most commonly used words in Chinese, what they mean are the 500 most commonly used characters in Chinese. Where the word taxi is fairly common, it's made up of 2 characters. One of them is quite common and the other one isn't. So with your 350 words, you won't get lots of everyday words if you count the character as word. We need to count word as it's whole words. It's not a character. Okay. The 300 most frequently words in a person's speech amount to 80% of the actual words spoken. This is very important material. Core vocabulary makes up 3/4 of what adults say, or more than 3/4, what adults and children actually say. It is not the focus of design in most AAC systems. Is the focus core vocabulary or extended vocabulary? Extended. Yeah, so the Minspeak systems are unique, the PRC systems are unique in that I don't know of anyone else who focuses on core. And multiple studies, and we'll keep going through these, and we'll say 78%. Multiple studies show 78% of the words we use daily are drawn from a core of fewer than 400 words. And here is the next big and amazing thing about core, is that it is consistent across populations. There is a way of, if a guy is coming from, say, Burma, he's a very talented engineer, and he's being hired by Caterpillar out in Illinois, and his specialty is gear fashioning, they will give him a bunch of English words used for gears, all the technical words. That's called English for Special Purposes. I was trained in English for special purposes. And I was also, as a linguist, very curious about the core vocabulary. But what we find is that core vocabulary is consistent across clinical populations. If you see an AAC user who's 75 years old and has had a stroke and was a minister, I drew up one of these systems once and put in words like salvific grace. The old guy didn't use it for some reason, and what's more, he died relatively near term of another stroke. But the fact is, I drew up a thing he couldn't really use. It didn't, okay. So what we find is, whether it's old, young, middle-aged, adolescent, core vocabulary is all the same. Even somebody who is habituated to the word like, and say, well, like, man, we went downtown, and I didn't like anything they had, well, you'll find out that like and man occur there, but the rest of the sentence is devoid of that. And it will be made up of the regular core words. Like and man are core words, but not used in that way. Okay. How many of you have been trained to find the special words an AAC user is going to need to use in a specific environment? I was... well, I don't mean trained. I mean, you were led to believe that that was what you needed to do.
Absolutely.
And you have done it.
Yes.
How many of you have gone around trying to find the words that an AAC user needs. Yeah. That's what most of us in the field have done one time or another. We have not gotten outcomes that are particularly good from this, and we're going to be talking about why here. Extended or fringe vocabulary varies from person to person, but core vocabulary is almost always the same for everybody in a language group. Okay. I got a call from a very famous scholar in our field who said, we're working for core vocabulary used in social relationships. I said, oh, goodness. And she said these would deal with words and nouns that deal with affection and deal with acceptance. And I said, how do you accept someone? And you said, I really like your work. Oh, they weren't core social words, were they? How about nobody else does it like you do? Are you seeing that the words we use in social acceptance are the same words as we use in other environments? And it was part of someone's doctorate, doing core pages for social acceptance words, and I tried to do as well as I could. She and her students are coming to Pittsburgh for a major kind of conference in July, and I'm going to show up, and we're going to talk some more.